It's not like that at all. But he did have ideas here. To that point, as this is a minor spoiler for you, Brandon, but in the scene where David Dunn is in the stadium, he's trying to brush past people to get impressions, right? When he first starts to get impressions of the crimes they've committed or the secrets they're keeping, he brushes past a mother and a child, and he senses child abuse. And in retrospect, that can be seen as the Kevin Crumb character from the next two films. And it's been said that Shyamalan had that character in mind to put in this film, and that's why I mentioned it when I talk about the second 2/3 of this original story that he had written. So the pieces are there, so you can retroactively say that was Kevin Crumb that day and his mom at the stadium. So now there are a few deleted scenes that can be found on the DVD. Our home video release of Unbreakable. One is Audrey and Joseph sitting in the hospital, waiting for information if David survived or not. Another is David taking a shower after he gets home, but he's seeing the news footage of the wreck and he starts to cry because the reality of what happened starts to hit him. Another deleted scene is Elijah at age 7. He goes to the fair and he gets in one of these rides, one of these carnival rides. It's like a spinning ride, and he puts stuffed animals around him to kind of cushion him from being hitting the sides, but they slip, and then he starts to hit the sides, and he breaks all these bones. This horrific scene. They take this scene actually, and they put it in glass. They use it as a flashback, which I think is great. It's so cool that they take these deleted scenes and use them in glass.
Oh, nice! That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's another scene they actually do the same thing. It's a scene where David goes to check on Joseph to make sure that he's sleeping okay. And they kind of share a father-son moment there. And that's another scene they take, which wasn't in Unbreakable, but it was filmed. And they use it in glass as a flashback to kind of reinforce the relationship between David and his son.
So they're saving budget on glass by using footage that was already shot.
I thought it was great because you have the actors, and they don't have to do all this crazy CGI stuff, right? It's like, no, that was actually filmed for Unbreakable. That was so cool. I thought it was really clever. And just a couple other scenes. David actually, he goes to a priest to kind of he's trying to like wrap his head around his survival, and the priest tells him that look, it was just luck, and he had a nephew that died on that train. He was looking for answers. He isn't going to find him here. So I thought it was an interesting commentary on luck versus a greater purpose, which is one of the themes of this movie. There's also a scene where Audrey and David they go on their like do-over first date, and I'm not sure exactly how this would have played out because I haven't watched these deleted scenes in forever. But on my notes here. There is a friend of Audrey's that comes up to them and asks what kind of lawyer he is, which implies that she was having an affair, which I think is kind of left in the movie. Yeah. We can talk about that. There's a moment in the movie where it's like, And then finally, there's a couple other scenes where Elijah's taken away by other doctors after he has his conversation with Audrey about David. And finally, David goes into the locker room of the stadium, right, to lift even more weights, and he lifts up to 500 pounds. He starts bench pressing 500 pounds, and then he gets up, he sees the entire football team is watching him in awe that he's that strong. So those are some deleted scenes. You can find them on your home video releases of Unbreakable. Final bit of trivia here. The early previews of the movie did not have the superimposed text on the ending. Like, David Dunn reported Elijah to authorities. Where it's like almost like based on a true story. And that version was released in France and other markets, but the text was included in the TV home video versions of the film. And then finally, on a budget of $75 million, Unbreakable cost almost 3 times as much than both Split and Glass combined.
Wow.
And it had a worldwide gross of $248 million. So there you have it. There's your Unbreakable trivia, Brandon.
Awesome. Good job. That nearly broke me, but it was some good stuff.
I see what you did there.
So when was the first time that you saw this?
I saw it in 2000 in the theaters.
Did you?
Yeah.
Had you seen Sixth Sense by this point?
Yes, I had.
When did Sixth Sense come out?
Sixth Sense was 1999.
Because I remember it was quite a while after Sixth Sense came out that I saw it, like a couple of years, and I had gone like that whole time without any spoilers because everybody's like, there's a twist ending. And then like 10 minutes before the end, when I'm watching it on my first watch, my uncle turns to me and he's like, so how Bruce Willis hasn't been talking to anybody except the kid the whole movie? And I'm like, for crying out loud. Like, there's 10 minutes of the movie, and I didn't see that ending coming. So I was very upset, but whatever. So yeah, I went a long time without knowing what the ending was on that. But that's my little story for that one. So let's just jump into the problem that I had first off. So
Okay.
I watched this movie, and I really like this movie, and I think this movie is really great. And I didn't like the twist ending because I didn't feel like the twist ending is necessary for the movie. And upon my rewatch, I haven't seen it, so whatever it was 15 years ago that I saw this for the first time, I'm still watching this, and I'm still thinking that this twist ending is not necessary for the movie that I'm watching, because the movie to me is about Bruce Willis's character, and yes, Sam Jackson's character is there the whole time, but to me, it just felt tacked on because he's like, oh, because I had a twist ending at the end of Sixth Sense, now I have to be the guy that does the twist endings. That's what it felt like to me then. That's still what it feels like to me now.
Ooh, I hear this one has a surprise ending.
Yeah.
They even have that line in there.
Yeah.
When
right
Elijah's mom gives him the comic book, right? Well, okay, I disagree. I feel like them being arch nemesis is part of the hero's journey in this movie. Right? I mean, that's part of what Elijah is all about. He's all about the comic mythology. It's like, some of them are friends like us, right? He's so caught up in this. And he's obviously obsessed, right? And his obsession to find the opposite of himself, I totally buy that he would have done all these terrorist activities and disasters, caused all these disasters to kind of flush out, if you will, someone who's truly unbreakable, the opposite of Mr. Glass. So
but it felt weird to me because this guy is just a security guard at a stadium. Like, I don't know, like maybe it would have felt better to me if he had been a police officer investigating these crimes or whatever the whole time. I don't know.
Well, that's immaterial.
I mean,
that shows you, like, he's like, why did you go into security, right? And because he wants to protect people. Now, this is his origin story, right? This is Bruce Willis's origin story. So yeah, he starts out as a security guard at a stadium, but then who knows what the future's going to hold for him, right?
Right.
That's what you got to remember. Like, and I remember when I first saw this, I think I was a little disappointed in it because I was like, oh no, that's really what I was expecting, and it felt like, well, I thought I was going to see Bruce Willis be a hero, and but again, this is the chapter 1 of his story, So I mean, I didn't need him to see him going around. And that's part of it, right? He doesn't need to already be a cop or something. He needs to just be like, he's in security, but it's just something he does, but it's in his DNA to do it. And I think that's the point that Elijah's making when he's talking to him. Like, why didn't you open a chain of restaurants? Why did you go into security? So I saw no problem with that. And again, that shows how they are on both sides of the spectrum, because David, who is selfless, right? Elijah is very selfish because ultimately his quest is selfish. Because he wants to be proven right. That's what his ultimate concern is. And he doesn't care how many people have to die in order for him to be proven right about his theory about how comics are mythology and there's people on the other ends of the spectrum. So I think that's all really baked into the story. Like, if without that, then it really is just a random accident that he survived and that he hooked up with Samuel Jackson and he set him on this path of herodom, and that's it. I mean, to me, that would feel kind of surface level. It would feel underwhelming if that was all there was to it.
So we've talked about before, I'm not big into comics. I've read a few, I like a few superhero movies. I don't really know much about comics. I guess, like, how common is it that the nemesis is the instigator for the hero? The nemesis brings the hero about. Because in this movie, Mr. Glass is the reason that Bruce Willis becomes a superhero, because Bruce Willis is just going through his life not realizing that anything is wrong. Nothing is happening. So the reason why I said it would have made better sense if it was a cop investigating is because he could have done something where he was aware of weird events going on in his life. Like, maybe at one point he had to lift a car off of somebody, realizing he has crazy strength in certain situations, and he's going through his life not realizing this. But it's almost like what this movie is, it's not like almost what it's like. What this movie is the only reason he becomes a superhero is because Mr. Glass, he targets him, and he keeps pushing him and says, yes, you are, and yes, you are, keeps casting this doubt on him. I believe that had Mr. Glass not come in, Mr. Dunn, whatever Bruce Willis.
David Dunn.
Just David Dunn.
Very comic book name with the alliteration, yes.
Right. Would have gone through his life and nothing spectacular would have ever happened again in his life. That's what I think would have happened.
Well, true. But that's every hero's journey. What if the stormtroopers didn't come looking for the droids and kill Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru in Star Wars? Luke Skywalker never would have gone off and been a Jedi, right? So, I mean,
that's different. That's not Darth Vader going out of his way to convince Luke Skywalker he's a Jedi.
But there's nothing. But what is wrong with the fact that the villain created the hero here?
I don't know. That's the problem that I have with the story.
There's
right?
nothing wrong with it. I think, and that just shows you that often the villains end up creating their heroes through their own plans. But the thing about Mr. Glass was he wanted to find this. Like, his mission in life was to find the opposite of himself, and that was his mission. He found him. All right, and that's the thing. Like, to your point about him being a cop or something, the fact that Bruce Willis was just a normal guy in obscurity going about his days, that's what makes it so interesting, because it's somebody who gets plucked out of obscurity and get set on the path for greatness, right? That's a hero's journey. So, I mean, it's not common for, like, villains to create the heroes, so to say, on the regular basis. But I mean, it is common for them to have some kind of personal connection. You have, like, Magneto and Professor X in the X-Men movies, or Lex Luthor and Superman in some iterations, like in Smallville. They're best friends in the high school days. So they're taking a lot of tropes from comics and they're mixing them all up and repackaging them. And that's what makes this a fresh approach, though, because this is the early 2000s. This is when this is like post Batman and Robin, right? Which kind of blew up when we talked about the Blade trilogy, right? That was the beginning of, like, comics being taken seriously again on the big screen. X-Men and Spider-Man will come next in the early 2000s, right? But people want to get away from capes and tights and all these sort of tropes, right? So a movie like this is perfect for that time because it's talking about all these tropes, but it's trying to look at the superhero story through a real world lens, which is a very unique approach. And it's not based off anything either. It's not, hey man, we have a cool new interpretation of Superman. It's like, no. This is its own universe from page one, and I respect it for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then I'll put to you that what I know about superheroes, and then this is going to lead into why it feels weird for me. Okay. So Spider-Man gets bit by a spider. That's how he gets his powers, and then he starts playing with the powers. And he figures out how to squirt and whatnot, and then squirt his vent. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say, his webs. Okay. So in Batman 1989, Joker kills his parents, which I understand is not what happens in the comics. I understand that. Okay. But even there, while he inadvertently sets him on that path, that's it. He's not affecting his life anymore. And like Bruce Wayne makes the choice that he's like, okay, he makes the choice because my parents got killed, I'm going to do this. And then the movie ends up that he ends up facing that villain at the end. What's the other one that I'm thinking of? I guess X-Men. So Wolverine was like tested on, and then he decided to use the talents that he had, and he was trained by the side of good, right? So like all the ones that I know, this is the weird one. So
well, why does that matter?
That's all. I don't know. It just... I don't know why it matters so much, but that's my hang up on this film.
And so you didn't see this twist coming?
I didn't see the twist coming because I was just caught up in David Dunn's story. But when the twist came in Sixth Sense, I'm like, that's a very what's the word I'm looking for here? That's a very cathartic twist. Like that movie earned that twist, and this one just felt like a twist for the sake of being a twist. And I realize I'm really in the minority on this opinion. And then when we get, I'm sure that when we get to my final ratings, I will still surprise you. Okay, but it's just that. And then like the on screen, this guy went to jail, and this is what happened. Like it's a true story.
That was bizarre. I didn't understand
really
that. I didn't understand why they did that. It's like a TV, it's like the end of a Law and Order episode or something. I just don't understand why they did that, and that doesn't hurt the movie at all for me. It felt very out of place in the movie they just told. It almost made it feel like, because that's what you see in Based on a True Story. Right. You see the freeze frame, and you see like David Dunn went on to start his own. Elijah is currently serving a 25-year sentence, and so that is weird. But no, I find it refreshing, and I didn't see this twist coming, and I didn't really know what to make of it when I first saw it. I enjoy this movie more every time I see it. Because I see like the layers that they're going on here with, and also like talking about we talk a lot about Mr. Glass being the villain and the twist and all that, and we can still talk about that more at the end if you want. But I want to